The Handicap Index should always reflect a player's demonstrated ability. To ensure this, it is strongly recommended that handicap committees review the Handicap Index for all their home club members at least once each calendar year. When reviewing each Handicap Index, the Handicap Committee should consider all available information about a player before deciding whether any adjustments are required. A player's Handicap Index may be adjusted upwards or downwards. The committee may also freeze it or place a block on it moving upwards for a defined period. Additionally, the Handicap Committee has power to withdraw or reinstate a player's Handicap Index in certain circumstances, or to adjust it due to a player's temporary or permanent disability. Regular handicap reviews help ensure the game is played on a fair and equal basis for all members, wherever they're playing and whoever they're playing against.
So, obviously, at least once a year that you have the committee look at what these indexes look like. Every facility is supposed to have a committee of some sort. You know, a handicap committee of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that meet on a consistent and regular basis. And it's unfortunate that a lot of it ends up in the golf professionals' purview. And you think about it from, you know, just simply an employment situation. Let's say that you're, you know, a person that, well, not you, but anybody in general that you've got to apply something to. All right, if the committee's not there, a member of their peers to do it, and the golf professional has to do it, then all of a sudden that person becomes the president of your club. Your employment situation is very vicarious at that point. So you've really got to look at this from a golf facility committee dynamic and leave as much of the staff decision process. Clearly they should have a lot of input, but this decision has to be something other than the professional staff. It just has to. Here are some of the things that you should consider. Frequency of score submissions, deviations from expecting scoring performance, the trend of the player's handicap index, differences in player's handicap index over the last 12 months, 24 months, player scoring record, percentage of acceptable scores submitted at the player's home club. You know, clearly we want everybody to post all the scores all the time. And you saw that there's very few situations where you don't post a score. But Linda's husband at night would be one of them. All right. Percentage of acceptable 9-hole rounds, any scores from performances known in authorized formats of play. So if somebody's, you know, you play a better ball and they pick up on 12 of the holes, they still have a postable score. All right. Averages, differentials, match play, stroke play, all that. And so all these different areas are things that should be taken into account. All right. Clearly, handicap committees have responsibilities here. But again, a lot of these things can come from a data point. All right, so if we're going to adjust it, when a handicap review has been completed, the handicap committee can adjust a player's handicap index to better reflect their demonstrated abilities, obviously based on results of analysis. The adjustment must satisfy the following criteria, being a minimum of 1 full stroke, and except in exceptional circumstances, only increase a player's handicap index by up to 5 strokes above their low handicap index. So realize that we have many, many times more vanity handicaps, you know, where people have a much lower index than they really deserve, and they're not fun to play with because they're not competitive. So the committee's role is just as much important here. So where would a player's handicap index by 5 strokes be above the low? Where would these situations be? Declining player. We are in the process of developing essentially a World Handicap Committee of 5 for the MVGA. We've identified one person to join this committee. We're looking for 4 more. So the idea is we get some people that are data conscious that can start to see anomalies and then be an upward avenue. Because frankly, taking a handicap index away from a member means you're going to lose a member. So now you're talking about a $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 contribution that they're going to make to your facility. It's a very hard thing to do locally. And if we can do a little bit to assist this situation and they don't look at you as the only bad guy, that's what we want to do for you. We want to be a little bit more of a backstop for you. So if any of you in the room are interested, let me know. and we'll probably meet right after the first of the year. So ideally, well, we don't have to have everybody in town, but ideally that would be good for the start. The adjustment upward or downward must have the effect of freezing and modifying the handicap index for a defined period of time. So you've got to essentially say this is how long it's going to last, or resetting the handicap index by applying the adjustment to each of the most recent 20 scores in the scoring record to achieve the chosen handicap index, which is, very similar to that exceptional score performance dynamic.
The prompt submission of acceptable scores from authorized formats of play is an important part of ensuring the integrity of your handicap index. If you fail to submit a score promptly when required, the Handicap Committee will determine whether there was a valid reason, such as forgetfulness or injury. If the reason was valid and an acceptable score is still discoverable, that score will be posted to your scoring record and your handicap index updated. If there was no valid reason and an acceptable score is discoverable, the Handicap Committee will post that score to your scoring record. If the score is not discoverable, the Handicap Committee may post a penalty score. In the most serious cases, such as repeated failure to submit acceptable scores, the Handicap Committee has discretion to apply an additional penalty score, reset the player's handicap index, or consider other disciplinary procedures.
So when we're going to apply a penalty score, the reason was valid, acceptable score still discovery, that score should be posted. So if somebody just forgot to post, put that score in. Okay? If there's no valid reason the acceptable score is discoverable, still post that score. If it's not discovered, then a penalty score may be posted, and that penalty score should be the lowest differential in that person's record. It's not par. So it's whatever that lowest differential would be. All right? In the most serious cases, such as repeat failure, now we're talking about things that we don't want to do to essentially other disciplinary actions. And clearly, this is something that we want to be the last bastion, but this is what we want to help you do if we get there. All right, reinstatement. Yep. So, what are you going to do when you're going to reinstate? Determine the layer of handicap index at which a player is to be reinstated. Consider at a level that the hand feels is currently reflective of the player's ability. I mean, if you're going to have a person, they're probably not going to be at the same club when this goes back into effect. Applying the handicap allocation procedure, the player with a new game, reinstating the last record, handicap index. Strongly recommended that under this option, the handicap committee monitors the player's handicap index closely over subsequent rounds, and where required, makes appropriate adjustments. All right, we spent a lot of time on the handicap committee. It's important, and some of you who manage, a regular schedule of league play or members or whatever the case may be, it's important that you at least have somebody in your group that you can have these conversations with. And of course, I'm there to help.